Greetings, blessings, beloveds, brothers and sisters on earth. It's me, Lori Ann Spagna, here with you today to take a few moments to connect in about the current shifting that's going on and just share with you a little bit about what's ahead, because we have an incredible amount of change coming up in the months, particularly already started in March and in April, really through the summer and through a big portion, a big chunk of this year. The change is very different than the kind of change we've seen in the past. Now, I'm going to say a few things about the current astrological lineup, but before I do, I want to emphasize that the change that any one person will see is always based on their unique perspectives, their unique beliefs and belief systems, their unique energy and vibration, their unique soul's agreements and contracts, their soul's journey, their unique divine design in accordance with what each of us as unique individuals came here to transcend, to learn, to experience, and to grow into and evolve either out of or into. All of that. So we all have different lenses, and our reality, this is right here worth the listen. This is worth the ticket stub. Reality conforms to you. Reality conforms to you. So this is a major part of the shift in the recognition that your reality will reflect who you are to you, and everything you believe and everything you perceive and everything that you energetically resonate with. So that's a challenging experience for people, especially when we're from the perspective of like our external reality has power over us. That just simply is no longer true. And if it never really was true, it's just that we didn't realize that the external reality was impressing itself upon us through our experience of duality. So, I mean, that right there, that piece of information is so big. Now, more and more of us are waking up to that, of course, but how many of us are really embodying that knowing and recognizing that experience through our trajectory, through our entirety? So that is what we're going to be waking up to realizing. That is literally the ultimate message for the year ahead. And so, and the years ahead, really, as humanity awakens to this and comes into the realization that we are not at the effect of reality, we are the projectors that create the reality, so to speak, even though all realities exist already. Okay, so that's a mouthful, but that's not even what I was initially going to share. I just needed to set you up for success with regard to what you're about to hear. Because, of course, there are some factors that affect us globally, and we get to interpret and experience that, again, based on all the things I indicated earlier. So I'm going to do a brief rundown of the massive change catalysts, the catalysts for change that lie ahead in just the next month alone, because of course I'll continue to do this and provide updates in the coming months and over the course of the year, as I have been doing to the best of my ability. So this month alone, what we're seeing ahead in March and April, I'm going to focus on March actually, primarily on March. March 2nd, we saw already the birth of what we call the Piscean season, right? That's the birth of the Piscean season. And this birth of this Piscean season is ushering in the changes that are ahead. On March 7th, which now in linear time is tomorrow, which is also the day, by the way, of our impromptu, I call it impromptu, but it's really just a channeling and healing transmissions webinar where we do channeling with ascended masters, divine goddesses, star family races. Almost always my primary channeling is with the consciousness of the collective, of the group that shows up. That's almost always my first tap into. What does the collective need to know? And because all of us have our own guides and our own guardians and masters and teachers and loved ones, we do set up protocol because we're energetically sharing space. We set up protocol that it's only of the light and only in service to the light. That is very important to me. But that's always my first group. Other than that, that's my first sort of, I'm tapping into the consciousness of our group, what we need to know, what we need to bring through, what we need to heal, what we need to resolve. And then we're always working with our divine team and the teams that I work with in the non-physical, which literally are legions of light at this point. So many benevolent beings that I work with on an ongoing basis, which, yes, includes masters, teachers, loved ones, ascended goddesses, divine goddesses, and the animal kingdom, of course, and many conscious beings in the planetary realm, including Gaia, Sophia herself, and the consciousness of the planets. Sometimes I'll work with the consciousness of weather patterns or storms, or sometimes locations, geographically, all kinds of beings, because there's consciousness in everything and everyone. So that's where we get the information that I'm about to share with you. But we do look at the planets themselves. And so on March 7th, that's when we're doing that, right? We're doing that next live event, which I, of course, would love for you to join us for that. If you head over to LoriSpagna.com under the live events tab, you will see the link to register and join us for the live event. Or if you're hearing this after the live event, you'll still be able to get the replay. And again, it's LoriSpagna.com under the live events tab. You'll see impromptu channeling and healing transmissions webinar, the link for that. Again, it's March 7th. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying here, on March 7th, this is a big, massive change. We have Saturn moving into Pisces. And simultaneously, the same day, is a full moon in Virgo. So you don't have to understand astrology to understand this. These are both indicators of intense, accelerated transformation related to what the consciousness of these planets are doing for humanity, both in terms of the shadow aspects and the light aspects. And the shadow aspects are usually those things we associate with unpleasantness or parts of ourselves we don't always want to look at, or things perhaps that we might need to heal or resolve, or things that may have been hidden from us or in our unconscious, things that might have been secret or covert. Whenever we're talking about shadow aspects, that's what we need. Whenever we're talking about light aspects, we're talking about the greater part of us that is aligned with the light, that is aligned with our divinity, that is aligned with the best version of ourselves, that is bringing us into greater love, peace, joy, harmony, health, well-being. Okay. Now, whenever we're talking about Saturn and whenever we're talking about Pisces, we have two different things going on here. Saturn tends to be teaching us things related to structure and discipline and hard work and application, and that we do have strength and perseverance, things around that. It does teach us sort of tough lessons or give us sometimes some kind of hardship so that we can learn maybe endurance or strength or how to resolve things or overcome things. Sometimes Saturn is just teaching us healthy boundaries, or making us attempt to resolve some form of karma or karmic residue or something that was unresolved. Pisces, on the other hand, is asking us to become watery, flowy, more harmonious, or accepting of duality. Pisces is oftentimes asking us to flow. So these two energies sometimes are wanting different things, and they're asking us to resolve whatever is in duality or what is in separation, right? That is polarizing. In a sense, when they come together, that could be perceived. Now, this is not an astrological report here. I'm just attempting to tell you some of the big changes that we're going to be seeing ahead and how we're going to be working with them overall as a collective. I could spend a lot more time in this, but I want to keep this as short as I can just to go through because there's so much. March 7th, when we're looking at a full moon, which happens to be in the sign of Virgo, which is a very grounded, methodical type of energy. The full moon wants big change and big beginnings and will amplify. That's what it does. But usually moon is representative of a 30-day cycle because it processes through 30 days. But it's the biggest energy that the moon has, full moon. So it amplifies, it intensifies, it enlightens because the light of the moon. And it enlightens things that typically have been in the dark in the past when the moon was absent. But those things may be shadow things. At the same time, because it's a full moon, and the moon is maternal, moon is emotions, it can have to do with that as well. Maternal aspects or emotional aspects or ways that we may mother or parent ourselves or have relationship with or to mother. Parenting, how we parent self and others. So, and in Virgo, it wants a very grounded, kind of methodical way of planning or perceiving. It wants to do this in a grounded way. And full moon is always leaving behind something and birthing something new at the same time. Now, March 12th, Jupiter conjuncts Chiron. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and expanded awareness, is going to help us to see Chiron wounds that we have not yet seen or realized. Wounds that maybe formerly we believed or perceived were unhealable or unresolvable. And Jupiter usually will want us to become either aware of that wounding or that trauma, and ideally come into the recognition that through awareness, all things are healable. That is my knowing. All things are healable. And of course, healable does not just refer to physicality. In this state, we can, in a Pisces state, we could definitely associate it with emotionality, things we've been emotional about before, because Pisces is a feeling sign. It's an emotional sign. It's a water caring sign. Things that maybe we've cared about too much or too little could be reflected through Jupiter conjunct Chiron, where we need to put our attention on. Okay, now March 16th. I'm only going over the major ones, by the way. There's smaller things I'm leaving out here, just for time. March 16th, Venus enters Taurus. When Venus, the planet of love, enjoyment, pleasure, sometimes indulgence, sometimes overindulgence, and yes, sometimes the planet of money and wealth and prosperity, goes into the sign of Taurus, which is always linked to material, monetary, physical, the physical body, the physical earth, physical money system, the system, not the system itself, but things related to money, wealth, abundance, pleasure. These two coming together, that is a powerful punch in a very unified way related to these topics. So this will intensify somehow. This is going to be a time when people with money issues will be looking at that and how we use and apply our various forms of money and wealth and abundance and all forms of substance and matter related to that, even if it may be some form of electronic currency or what we value what we value and what has worth to us. This will be a big topic. And these things, by the way, as they're coming into the light for review, it is up to us as conscious beings to address this in ways that are healthy and appropriate, right? So it helps to be very conscious about what's going on. This is why for those of us light workers who have been doing our work and come into the light on this, it's much more graceful for us. Much, much, much more graceful, much easier for us, thankfully, for those of us who do light worker. And this is why, by the way, I'll be doing in the next few months, like very soon, I'm going to be offering a light worker mentorship. I'm excited about it. I've been working behind the scenes on this for over a year. And this is about really working with consciousness in a whole new way. And it's just going to be very exciting. Anyway, because we need to become more conscious as a planet, as a species. That's what's really happening with the shift, right? Okay, but let me stay focused on March alone, all the changes and what we're going to be dealing with. On March 19th, Mercury goes into Aries. Now, Aries, a fire sign, fast movement, fast change. Mercury, the sign of communication and how we work, and also sometimes related to mercantile issues. It can be related to money, but more the money we earn or the money we work for, and the way we exchange and or communicate. And definitely Mercury can oftentimes have to do with technology. In the sign of Aries, big, fast changes with regard to technology and work in technology. March 20th, the sun enters Aries. The sun is the light of God, and the sun is the power of the divine going into Aries, fast changes, quick movements. And sometimes Aries can be I, me, mine, me, because Aries is considered to be the birth of the astrological chart. So it's sort of like the infantile side of us sometimes that says, this is what I want and I want it now. Me, right? Overly sometimes demanding. And that's not making Aries wrong. It's because it has the capacity to make the change that it needs to make, because it can be very single focused. So the sun is going to amplify that fiery change come March 20th, that all of these predecessors we've just talked about, these other factors leading up to this, will be incorporated into. Then on March 21st, Jupiter will semi-square Saturn. That means if change isn't happening, it will force into a hard angle expansion of consciousness related to, because Jupiter is expansion of consciousness, Saturn, as we said earlier, all the things it represents related to these factors. So March is going to be very demanding on us to recognize what is going on and make change. March 21st, we have a new moon in Aries. So now new beginnings. Again, opportunities for massive change in accelerated ways, accelerated paces. And if you haven't already listened to just the previous audio and video that I did on expecting the unexpected, which was based on channeled information coming through from masters, teachers, loved ones, and the higher realms, it makes a lot of sense when we look at the astrological lineup regarding what's ahead. Now, the biggie I haven't even said. And again, the reason I do these impromptu channeling and healing webinars is so we can get, what we get is this kind of information, and we understand not only what to expect, but how to work with these energies rather than be at the effect of them, to work in harmony with them, which is part of why I do those calls, like the impromptu channeling call, like the DNA activations webinar, where we get tons of channeled information, insight, and guidance as well. It's part of why, so we can move through these changes with grace and with ease and with benevolence. And so that when things happen, our consciousness is already expanded enough where we say, I see what's happening. I know what to do. I've got that lesson. I've got that awareness. I don't have to be blindsided by these things. I can move through this with grace, with ease, with benevolence. I know what the gift of consciousness is. I get the lesson involved. I've got the awareness. Breathe, sigh of relief, and boom, it's resolved like that. And the bumps and bruises are so minor, rather than big catastrophes that happen in people's lives during these kinds of shifts, because that is part of what's going on, right? For people who are addressing this kind of stuff more in the shadows or more from the fear-based perspective, these are big changes that are more challenging to undertake and to endure. Okay, the biggest one I haven't said. But so of course I want you to join us, right, for that upcoming event, which again is at LoriSpagna.com under the live events tab, because that event is what helps us in this way. And that's where we get this information, this energy, this consciousness, this guidance. And this is why I can share about this stuff too. I'm not learning about this from someone else. I'm communicating with these planets. I'm communicating with the higher realms about what the higher purposes of these things are. So I hope that makes sense. And that's a huge part of what comes through during these channel calls. These are not channel calls that just keep telling you your love. Like we're truth seekers, right? We're people who really want to use divine truth and consciousness from the higher realm to bring that into the physical world so that we can assist and support the divine as these changes affect the collective. Yes? Okay, but here's the big one. March 23rd, Pluto enters Aquarius. Now this is so massive. What's not so massive is that Pluto moves so slowly that it's not like suddenly overnight. And yet Pluto is so massive in its transformation that it is as if it's overnight. It's both. Pluto is the planet of transformation. Pluto is the planet of power. Pluto is the planet of the phoenix rising up and out of the ashes. So Pluto wants massive transformation on a massive scale. And it is not polite, and it will yield power, and it will destruct as well. It will destruct where power is destructive. So it destroys inappropriate power, but it yields its power. It is all about power. And it yields its power to destroy power that is used inappropriately, which we will be seeing hugely in the year ahead as it relates to the power that has been abused in the past 2 to 3 years especially, but even way before then. So massive power struggle dynamics. If you see it, one thing I suggest, we will go into this in the webinar, how to deal with the power struggle dynamics, because there is no question that everybody is already beginning to notice somewhere in their life power struggle dynamics somehow playing out. If you don't see it yet, you will. This is what Pluto, it demands attention. It will not, Pluto is not a planet that will allow us to sweep things under the carpet. It will no longer allow humanity to be carpet sweepers or in what I call denial or denial of denial. Pluto does not allow that. And it has allowed it for a long time in other ways, but it is now coming sort of out of the shadows. It's moving through the shadows and into the light. So, okay, Aquarius is the sign of transformation in and of itself too. So Pluto coming into Aquarius, this is the birth of the age of Aquarius. It's more than the birth. We've already gone through the early onset. This is the actual entering of the age of Aquarius. And it is the moment of, if someone were to mark the moment, this would be it. Although there will be a retrograde in the year ahead where Pluto goes into retrograde. And when it comes out of retrograde, and we don't need to talk about that right now because that's in months ahead, some people could say that's it. The birth is done. It's like we're in the birth canal, some people would say, but I would say Pluto entering Aquarius is the birth. So Aquarius is all about the collective consciousness, being of service, wisdom. Aquarius does have to do with technology and advancements. Aquarius' shadow side is its own form of denial too. You see, because Aquarius is so oftentimes disconnected from its own wound because it's so brilliant. And so it has its own worldly knowledge that it's disconnected from its emotionality. So I would suggest that Pluto entering Aquarius will, over the course of the next 20 years, require us to look at and heal our emotional bodies. That will likely no longer allow us to remain in a state of denial. But of course, this is a 20-year transit. So again, it's not something we will notice immediately, and yet we will begin to notice it immediately. All right, there's a lot more where this all came from, but these are just the basic major highlights of the month of March alone. And these planets, you may, as many light workers do, tend to think like, oh, I'm not affected by that. But I want to say that denial is not an effective tactic. We are in physical form, and it is true, we are way greater than the influence of the planets. We are way greater than the influence of anything in mere physicality. But we can never reach or achieve or align with the greatness that we are that exceeds everything in the physicality until we fully, wholly, and completely embrace the physicality. So I hope that's helpful. Now, there's a lot more where this came from, but right now I'd love to hear from you. If this is on the YouTube channel, I would love to hear back from you and what you think about all this and what you're expecting in the month ahead, what you are planning for the month ahead and the changes that you see ahead. If you're hearing this before that, if you're in my inner circle or if you're in my community, you wouldn't be able to do that. But do look for the link to the upcoming impromptu healing and channeling webinar. It's at LoriSpagna.com, of course, under the live events tab. And it literally is on the day that Saturn is moving into Pisces, and that initiates and triggers the changes that are ahead that I've just referenced. So the live event is on Tuesday, March 7th. Of course, if you can't be there live, but you are registered, you get the recording. The healing energies and transmissions that come through the channeling are there regardless of when you listen, because they're coming from higher realms where time is not a limitation. And I would love to have you join us. And this is where this kind of information and energy and consciousness and so much more comes out. So yeah, do head over to LoriSpagna.com under the live event tab and scroll down to impromptu group channeling and healing event and register and join us. And of course, you'll get the replay if you can't be there live. Now, other than that, what I want to say is there's lots more where this came from, and there will be lots more available. So stay tuned and have a look for that Lightworker Sacred Mentorship. It's where I'm going to be offering so much of this and so much more to my Lightworker Sacred Mentorship community, where we are really working with the higher realms, really coming into our divine power. And this is not power over another. This is our power from my perspective, as I understand it, as I've worked with the higher realms, is through our alignment with the divine and through our alignment with our soul's divine desire for us. The soul's highest and most benevolent, best divine alignment. So to me, that's what power is. And that's really what we're going to be doing with Pluto, working with Pluto and through the sacred mentorship. So much more in there. It's not yet available. It is not yet launched. So if you want to hear more about it, stay tuned. Head over to lauriespagna.com and join us. Join the community. There's lots of amazing and incredible free gifts there that you can register to learn about how to really be of service and contribution to animals on a global scale. That's part of the mentorship. And also how to really tap into your divine gifts, talents, and abilities, whether they are the gifts of working with the Akashic Records, whether it's the gifts of channeling, whether it's gifts of working with your mentors, guides, teachers, and loved ones in the non-physical, whether it's gifts of working with your psychic intuitive abilities, whether it's gifts of working, whatever it is, it's in there. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I tell you, we have incredible, extraordinary gifts. And that's what I'll be working with people in the Sacred Mentorship. For now, though, I hope you'll join me on Tuesday, March 7th, for our impromptu group channeling and healing event, and where you'll get to receive transmissions and downloads and the divine consciousness with the higher collective of the non-physical realm, beings from our higher consciousness, plus from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th dimensional reality and beyond. Really incredible consciousness that we're tapping into from the non-physical and bringing it into the physical. So I hope you'll join us. Again, it's Tuesday, March 7th, and you get the recording and all the information once you register. Please do so before the rate goes up. Once the rate goes up, I can't change it for you. Okay, with that, I'm going to sign off for now, and I'm going to send you so much love. And I want to thank each and every one of you for participating and for being in my inner circle, because if you're hearing this first, that means you already are there. And I love you so much. I'm sending you all my love. Until next time, farewell for now. Bye-bye.